Happy Tuesday. Welcome back to a CI Chit Chat. Um, Excited to just, continue the conversation with everyone. Good to see a nice crowd on here this morning. And we've got a couple different updates and things to talk about here today. But happy to take your questions. So drop your questions in the chat, or even if you want, you can come off of mute and ask your questions direct. We'll have a little conversation about it. So let's back up, though. Start how we always do. CI Chit Chat, what the heck are we talking about here? So CI, or carbon intensity. Carbon intensity, we have got a whole suite of services that we're offering around that, including your CI scores, which is your carbon intensity score per bushel, or basically your carbon footprint per bushel. And that's ran utilizing the GREET model, which was developed by the U.S. Department of Energy. Started all the way back in 1994. It's when they first started releasing that GREET model. So it's nothing new. They've continued to update it, make it better over time, and are continuing to improve it as they go. But we're running those GREET scores because we need to get our scores verified on for each field. We do that with our CI certification program. And ultimately, we're talking carbon intensity because biofuel producers are going to need low carbon intensity grain to produce low carbon intensity biofuel and tap into the 45Z tax credit. 45Z was passed into law over 2 years ago. We still are waiting on some of the final IRS rules. A couple of different additional indications here recently about this administration still getting the rules out while they're still this administration. So sometime between now and in January, getting the actual rules out and published. Because keep in mind, right, the legislative branch passed the law. Now the executive branch has to go and interpret and implement the law. Particularly in this case, since it's a tax credit, we're talking about the U.S. Department of Treasury, and more specifically the IRS, taking the law and implementing it into the tax code. So we're still waiting for some of the final rules from them, but indications that they're making progress, and it's high priority and all this chatter. But we'll believe it when we see it and when we get the rules out. So we're watching very closely. I'm actually in conversations right now with some of our buddies at USDA, which is great. They want to hear our feedback and they want to have conversations. So getting something locked in on the books with the folks at USDA, which is very exciting. So I'll see where their head's at and try to help them to put together the rules the way that are really going to work for as many farmers as possible, and the way that the rules can work for biofuels in general, and share with them our perspective. In my email to them, I shared a couple really main things, and I think these are a couple critical components if we want 45Z to actually be successful. In particular, be successful at bringing farmers to the table and farmers and biofuel producers working together. I think step number one is we've got to use the actual GREET model, not some watered down, modified version where we're just bundling a short list of practices together. That's not going to fly, and not going to get enough folks to participate. And it's not enabling the most important thing in agriculture, which is farmer innovation. For all these programs, it's like, just let farmers be innovative. Like, we want to be innovative. So many farmers are super innovative. We're way ahead of the government, in particular, way ahead of the government when it comes to implementing the best practices for our farms. Let us be innovative. Let us go figure this out. Show us what the calculation is, and let us go and figure out how to best make it work for each of our individual farms. So that's why we're really pushing to use the GREET model. It's definitely not perfect either, but it's robust enough to reward farmer innovation and to let farmers get creative with what are going to be the best practices to use on their particular farm, and then quantify that and tell that story. So that's number one, use the GREET model. Number two is really on kind of the traceability. And we don't necessarily have a super strong feeling either way when it comes to either have the data and the grain stay connected together, where each load of corn or soybeans has a CI score associated to it, and that grain can basically be digitally tracked throughout the supply chain. And in that case, you likely would have to, sell the low carbon grain and sell the data to an ethanol plant that's fine. And we'll deal with that. And I think the elevators and the co-ops and stuff, they'll get it figured out and be able to participate. I think other players in the space will be able to play within the rules. They'll just have to get a little bit more creative. But that grain and data could be tracked together. Option number 2 is to do book and claim. This is what the Renewable Fuels Association is pushing for, where the grain and the CI certificates get sold separately. So the grain can be sold to the local pork producer, like in my case, and then the data can be sold directly to any ethanol plant. Would open up a lot of price transparency, price discovery, and basically reward those who are going to be aggressive at working with farmers to decarbonize and buy their CI certificates. That's also part of the reason why we're building the marketplace that we are building. I'm talking with investors and stuff right now as well to really build out a more robust CI certificate marketplace to enable price transparency, the traceability of these certificates through the supply chain, avoid fraud, help with audits and such, as all of those things occur as this rolls out. So making sure that we got the systems there to be really robust. So, but again, telling USDA, GREET model, not a modified version that is only a couple small handful of practices. GREET model, a couple options on how you can do the traceability and how the actual market could be unveiled. Number 3 is get us the rules soon so that we can figure this out. And especially pushing on USDA. It's like, guys, like we've already been putting on cover crop on our farm. We started picking corn on Wednesday. Things look really good in my neck of the woods. I went to Kearney, Nebraska and back yesterday. A bunch of crop harvested between here and Lincoln, Nebraska. As I got west of there, didn't see as much harvested yet. But a lot of folks going to be rolling in the fields. We're a little bit wet right now here this morning, but as we go, it's going to really go fast, and yields look really good. The crop is way drier than what we were expecting, with just a couple recent weeks of hot, dry, sunny weather. Really dried the crop down, which is fine. We'll save on the LP, and that helps our CI score too. So, but anyway, we need to get these rules out as soon as we can. That will start the public comment period. There's a 60-day public comment period that is due to occur, and we'll make sure that we make our voices heard, but trying to make sure that the rules are done well from the beginning, and that public comment doesn't have to completely alter, what the feds were planning on doing. So trying to push as much as we can here now. Some other updates along those lines. I'm actually going to Milwaukee here later today. The Renewable Fuels Association is having their summer board meeting up in Milwaukee. Continuum Ag is a member of the Renewable Fuels Association. We're also a member of Growth Energy and the Iowa RFA and a couple different groups. But I'm going to be going up to Milwaukee and hanging out with those folks in the biofuel space. Been meeting a ton of people on that side. So I'm excited to go and see some of these folks I've been building a relationship with over the last 2 years, and go see what the RFA and the biofuel folks are thinking when it comes to 45Z and other matters. Obviously, there's a lot going on in ag and in biofuels. 45Z is one component, but it's a big one, a big deal. So that is the kind of the update there. So next week, I will have some thoughts and takeaways from the RFA board meeting. Okay, the other key thing is our big announcement here this week. CI scores are finally free. So CI scores used to be where you would you'd go to TopSoil.Ag, fill out your farm profile, and then there was a paywall, and we had the Billion Bushel Challenge discount code that you could get your CI score for $25. You'd no longer have to pay at all anymore. So we really encourage farmer to farmer interaction here, or if there's agronomists on this or other collaborators, it is time to get CI scores done. We are basically at the 10th or 11th hour here so far of the 2024 season. Farmers need to know what their CI scores are, which is done just in general with our CI score tool on Topsoil. Ultimately, you need to get in on CI certification and get your fields scored at the individual field level. But to know in general what your score is plug in your default practices. You can go to TopSoil.Ag and plug in your data and get your free CI score. So we've seen a couple, why we're doing this. Number one, there was just friction before with having to have people pay and plug in discount codes, and for $25, like, not worth it. Let's help farmers. Everyone needs to know what their score is. Let's go. Number two, hardly anyone was paying anyway, because our sales agronomists were giving the score away for free anyway and just telling people what their score are. Our dealer network, they were giving away the score for free. So people pretty much had already gotten their score, or everyone that was new that's getting their scores is basically getting it for free anyway. So we said, let's just make this easier on all of us, make it free for everybody. There are a couple other kind of competitors of sorts, a lot of groups that we're actually in collaborations with or in conversations with for collaborating together, but a variety of other folks that have been coming to the table here recently, getting their hat in the CI ring and saying, hey, we're going to do CI scores as well, and we'll give it away for free. Why I think we're different: number one, we're running the full GREET model. There are some defaults that are provided, but you can replace those, and we are running the full GREET model. I haven't seen anybody else do that. Everyone else is putting in some assumptions in different parts, and that's fine, but you're not necessarily getting the most accurate CI score, and that's why we run the full GREET model, the feedstock calculator 2023 FDCIC, the full-blown GREET model. And we have ran thousands of scenarios where we run the score in topsoil versus run the score in the actual GREET Excel model, and we are dead on in getting those scores. So if you want to know what your actual full-blown CI score is, that's what you're seeing at TopSoil.Ag, and now it's free. Beyond that, number one, of course, this is farmer to farmer. Farmers, you own your data in the system. We don't share it with anybody. So that's critical as well. Know that you're working with somebody that you can actually trust, and that's why we built our own system as farmers, to make sure that we control the data and make sure that we know who has access to it. And then we actually are displaying the score with the units that is laid out by the Inflation Reduction Act. So in the law, it says the units that are going to be needed for 45Z, and those are the same units that we display in topsoil. We also show the potential math for your 45Z impact. We don't know what the farmer payment is going to be. There's small pilot projects going on still, but nobody has rolled out an actual 45Z payment program. And so therefore, we don't know what to tell the farmer that their payment would actually be. Instead, we just show what the total pie is, and the dollars that would be going to the ethanol plant, and then be able to be shared and dispersed from there by the key stakeholders. So, but definitely now's the time to go and get a CI score, or help out your friends and neighbors or your farmers that you work with in your network. They go to TopSoil.Ag and get their free CI score, and in a robust and safe, secure manner. That's the key things. Yeah, and it just takes a couple minutes on there. Going into TopSoil.Ag, and a couple minutes you can get your CI score. Another thing, maybe to get a little bit of feedback and stuff too, I think I've mentioned this before, but we are putting together a report that we're working on for the current pilot programs that are out there for carbon intensity. So we're putting together a report we plan on publishing for free, that you can see the different carbon intensity pilot programs. So if you know that your ethanol plant is doing a pilot project, send me a quick email, Mitchell@Continuum.Ag. We'd love to know, what the programs are, what's going on. We know about a lot of the big ones: ADM, Poet, Valero, Big Rivers, Western New York Energy. We know about a lot of those programs that are going on, but if your local ethanol plant has a program going on, send me a quick note. We'd love to chat with them and make sure that we're bringing awareness to farmers and helping them to recruit as well. So, but putting together a report so that everybody knows, excuse me, what the programs are, and the pilot projects anyway, so you kind of see who's at the forefront and paying attention for 45Z. So couple other kind of thoughts here today, and put your questions in the chat if you have some, or we'll work towards wrapping. But I think go into topsoil and play with your score and stuff as well. As you're harvesting, be safe out there as harvest really starts ramping up. But be thinking about your 2025 CI score and the practices that you need to be implementing for 2025. It's the cover crop you could get on here this fall, this strip till or reduced tillage system that you can do this fall, utilizing manure if you can get your hands on some. These type of practices that we could be planning for and implementing this fall is going to set us up for success next year. So be sure that you're thinking about those things. If you want some help putting together a detailed regenerative ag plan, we actually still do offer some crop consulting. We have agronomists on our staff who can help you. We charge a couple dollars an acre for it, but we do still offer regenerative ag consulting. That's actually how I started the company off. We were doing soil sampling with the Haney soil health test and doing regenerative ag crop consulting. And now it's just expanded beyond that to really be able to focus on utilizing this data and running our CI scores. So, but if you do want help implementing some of these practices, hit us up. Happy to connect with an agronomist who can handhold you through the process here. A couple other things along those lines. Farmers who are enrolled in CI certification, thank you. Number one, thank you for getting up on this. We're going to be submitting in batch number one, like about 60 million bushels or 60 million certificates to go be verified, which is just incredible. Hundreds of thousands of acres, hundreds of farmers. So really excited to get this going and work with our third-party verifier to get this first batch of farmers verified, and then we learn from that and continue to streamline the process going forward. But if you are enrolled in CI certification, your Regen Success agronomist has been hounding you. The folks on my team, they've been hounding you. Get your data in, get your data in, get your data in. We've got to have it in by October 1st. So we've got to send this data over to the verifiers in just a couple of weeks. So get your data in by October 1. That way we can get it compiled, get it organized, and get it over to the third-party verifier. So October 1 is the data deadline. If you're in CI certification, you already spent money on this. Like, make sure that you don't waste the opportunity. Get in on this first batch. If you're not able to, tell us and we'll punt and put you in on the second batch of verification. But you already paid. So get in, get it done. It's going to be a little bit of a lift, but our people know how to help you. They'll help you through the process and get you in for verification. So October 1 is that deadline. Get in if you have been doing that. Bob, thanks for the note there. Nothing from Poet in Fairmont, Nebraska, but we know that Poet has been doing pilot projects at a variety of other places. I don't know how many of their locations they were doing pilot projects on, but I know that there's a couple locations anyway that are doing stuff. So interesting that they're kind of picking and choosing, and I don't know why they wouldn't be doing yours there, Bob. But in our report, we'll figure out exactly what they're doing at some of their other locations and make everybody aware, what is going on out there in the landscape. Again, a big push for what's going on in the landscape. Harvest Stone announced just a couple weeks ago that they have sold over $200 million worth of tax credits on contract to Bank of America. So very just amazing to see the first announcement of a sale of these type of tax credits. Crazy that the dollar figure on it was $205 million, like just an incredible amount of money. And it's tax credits. Tax credits are a multi-billion-dollar market already. And the biofuel industry has the opportunity to bring significant credits to the table. Now, this $205 million, that's not going to be a one-year thing, right? That's going to be over time, to be delivered over time and be sold over time. I don't know all the details of it yet, but in conversations with our folks up there, I'm sure a lot of it is private information, won't be able to be shared, but it is public that $205 million worth of tax credits sold on contract to Bank of America. Just incredible. So I'm sure that'll be hopefully anyway, it'll be a hot topic at the RFA meeting up in Milwaukee here this week, because it's a big deal to get that done. So really awesome to see. But yeah, so we'll keep you guys posted with additional updates and additional news coming out of the biofuel plants. I'm sure next week I'll have some notes from USDA, what I'm learning from them, and the conversation that they want to have. And then other than that, make sure that everybody knows far and wide, get your free CI score at TopSoil.Ag. We need to get the first billion bushels scored. There's 5.4 billion bushels going to go to biofuel next year, and they need to have a CI score. So let's get the first billion bushels scored and make sure that the powers that be in DC and make sure that they know that, hey, farmers actually can get their CI scores. We can get it verified. We can track this through the supply chain, make this very much real. We don't need to punt and do some kind of watered down bundled approach. Diana, thanks. We do have a full-blown webinar next week. What day is that? The 3rd, I think. It's in the that form there. But next week, I've got a guest coming on for our normal long-form Topsoil podcast, or Topsoil webinars that goes into the Topsoil podcast. And I've got Faith Larson joining me. She's from Mickelson & Co. They are a tax credit broker. So, and I met her at a conference about a year ago. And how this works is that the CPA firms, so the data from the farm and from topsoil, that goes with your grain and you sell it to the ethanol plant. The ethanol plant keeps track of their data and they run their carbon intensity score of their gallons of ethanol. That data goes through an audit and a verification process. And then that data is given to the CPA firm. So the CPA firm, the accountants, right, they do the opinion letter. They calculate what the tax credit value would be, and then they submit your taxes to the IRS. As they do that, though, if you created tax credits, those tax credits need to be sold. In a lot of cases, you either utilize them or you can sell them. And tax credit brokers like Mickelson & Co. and our gal Faith, who's joining the podcast, they broker these tax credits. And those, you have to disclose who you sold your credits to on your tax return. So say, for example, you produce the fuel in 2025. Now you're preparing to submit your taxes by tax day in April of 2026. You have to quantify your CI score for all of 2025, run your final numbers. So call that January of 2026. That's got to go through the consultants and make sure that those scores are legit. Then that goes to the CPA firm who runs the opinion letter and actually calculates the 45Z value. And then the extra tax credits have to get brokered and reported before you can submit your taxes. So that is a lot of work that's got to be done in a short period of time. Obviously, a lot of groups will likely extend their filing, but a lot of work there that's got to be done. And some of those sales are already starting to occur, like I shared with Harvest Stone and Bank of America. So really excited to chat with Faith and share with you all kind of how tax credit brokerage works and what those buyers are going to be looking for. And spoiler alert, it boils down to data. The value of the tax credits is based on volume. So they want to buy a big volume of tax credits because it's a lot of work. So they want a volume of credits and they need to be legit, which takes data. So that's why we are being as aggressive as we are. So join us next week, get registered. Going to be an awesome conversation. So, but anyway, with that, go get your free CI score if you haven't already. And we will see you next Tuesday on another CI Chit Chat, and then on the full Topsoil podcast next week as well. But thanks, everyone. Have a great Tuesday. We'll see you next time.